put the bourbon to it. Yeah, and have to go through explaining that to him, to a bartender, you know.
Mhm.
Jesus Christ, taste this.
Yeah, there's actually a we can get them here in Salem. I bought them before when I was doing a lot of distilling at home. There's I think it's called Oregon Fruit or something like that, but you can buy them at the JC store. They're basically already in a sugar solution, but really high end, high quality black dark cherries for pretty cheap for a quart of them. So, you don't even have to get fancy and order them anywhere online. You just make your own with those as well, and it works fine. And they're beautiful cherries. So
I always put a splash of amaretto into an old fashioned because I think that adds to the cherry flavor.
Di Serono in a old fashioned actually works really well.
And Alan's going, "Fuck you guys."
Yeah.
Holy shit, you sound like a bunch of girls. Will you princesses shut the fuck up? The only thing that goes in bourbon is ice.
Oh, here we go, Carl. Here we go.
So
right.
So Alan, have you met whiskey yet? I mean, formally? I don't think so, right?
No, I don't believe so.
Well, whiskey, this is Alan Bishop, the alchemist, and Alan, this is whiskey. He adds something to the podcast. There's no doubt about it. You'll see it as it goes through.
So, Alan, it's nice to meet you. I hope I disappoint you less than I do my wife.
Well played. Well played. Well, I mean, listen, you haven't started the conversation tonight at all after meeting you initially with, that bourbon can only be made in Kentucky, right? So we're probably going to be just fine.
Hey, Scotchy Bourbon Boys. This is Tiny to tell you about the new Dant Crossing. Dant Crossing is a one-of-a-kind destination to make lasting memories with family and friends. The pastoral campus is anchored by Log Still Distillery, where you can enjoy their truly outstanding Monks Road spirit. Enjoy world-class entertainment at their outdoor amphitheater, the AMP. Stay overnight at one of their unique lodging options. Host an unforgettable experience at their 18,000 square foot wedding and events venue. And enjoy acres of wooded walking trails and a 12-acre fishing lake. More attractions will open soon at Dant Crossing, including a fully functional private train depot and farm-to-table restaurant. For more information, go to www.dantcrossing.com.
So, but no, other than that, mostly new stuff. It's just, I don't know. We've laid down a lot of weird stuff over the years, honestly, Jeff, that we did a few barrels of something here or there that I'd forget about. And then now I'm starting to find them. They're starting to become mature. And so there's a lot of cool stuff in there that's starting to see the light of day, like the chocolate malt Ballard. That's going to end up that'll be one of our mainline products. So we lay down, 25, 30 barrels of that every year, and we have for years now. And the Hindostan Falls, I'll probably be dumping a bulk dump of that. Yep. I'll probably be doing a bulk dump of that next week is my guess. The winery just laid some French Lick Red and down in some Solomon Scott rye barrels. And so as soon as they're done with that project, I'm going to pull those barrels back and probably kick maybe some Matty Gladden into those. So,
Alan, are you using very many of the wine barrels for finishes at all?
No, because honestly, they don't really use barrels. They do mostly, when they do aging, they do mostly tank aging. So they're using, like in-tank staves. On the products that they don't use a lot of sulfates in, sometimes I will use those tank staves. Especially for making, like, we haven't even released this yet, but there's it's similar to the Lost River. So it's a 7-grain whiskey, but it's a bourbon. It's exact same mash bill, except that one, the Lost River bourbon is soured with citric acid, and then the whiskey is soured with malolactic bacteria, and then it goes into like a Solera system. So a bunch of different used barrels, and some of those are coming up on 8 years old now. So I'll take, for example, they had a bunch of those tank staves that they aged some Norton grapes on. And Norton is a very, very, very strongly flavored grape. For those that aren't familiar with it, it almost goes savory in a lot of ways. So I pulled those down, and I pulled just some white dog of that same whiskey, and then just laid those staves to it and made almost like a tea, right? A concentrate that I can use for dosing that particular whiskey with, and I can pull it back or hit it a little harder as needed as we go. So when they have stuff like that, I'll take it. I'm definitely a scavenger, and I like playing with stuff like that. So
Yeah, one of the things that I've since we met you 4 years ago, you've always talked about what people have done in whiskey, and a lot of stuff was lost, or prohibition kind of chopped it, and a lot of stuff never came back for what distillers were doing before that. And then so you're always talking about the different types of things. We were at a couple weekends ago, and when we were there, he does a rye that he proofs down with oolong tea.
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, actually
It works.
it's unbelievable, and then he also does a bourbon that he proofed down with cold brew coffee, a local cold brew coffee. So that one, in my opinion, the coffee came through, and it didn't blend enough with the bourbon. It still was good. I'm not saying that, but it felt like he was whatever. But the oolong tea one, what he proofed down. So I mean, when you start thinking about what everybody does, you proof. You could proof your whiskey down with wine. There's the French actually proof it in the barrel, right? As it evaporates, they'll add some of the so that system works where you just do it gradually as it's aging, right? I mean, there's so many different ways to do things, which
there's a lot of room yet for innovation. I mean, obviously, some of the categories you have to stay within, but there's a ton of stuff that happened before Prohibition that hasn't been done since then, and new ideas on top of it. Because Prohibition killed a generation. If you think about it, you killed a generation of distilling knowledge, just gone. But like split brandies, that used to be an actual thing. You'd have to put it underneath the distilled spirit specialty category now, but say taking peach and wheat, you can do that in the fermentation and then distill it together, or you can do it, distill each of them separately and then blend them together, and you'd have to put it under a DSS label. But what a great concept that nobody's doing anymore. And you can do that with lots of different directions. But like even you mentioned that tea, Jeff, like my brain immediately clicked, and I'm like, why in the shit would you not do a gin with green tea? Because that's a fucking
absolutely
great idea.
There it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love not only just the creativity that you're finding. I guess if you were in Kentucky, it would even be harder to be creative because you're making something that everybody, a trademark kind of thing. But as we go out in the United States, and we do all these different states, and you find the people getting creative because they don't have to just produce that one thing. It's kind of cool just to see how many and what you can do. And then also, I think that whole veil's been lifted, and people are accepting of that. Where we talked about it there 3-4 years ago when we first met, people were, they weren't accepting as much. Even when you were putting out your straight Indiana bourbon, you still had critics saying, it's not aged, that's not, whatever. As you just,
there's no limestone in Indiana, dipshit. You can't make bourbon in Indiana because there's no limestone.
I mean,
fucking river's magic.
We went to Thornton, which is right on the largest limestone quarry in the country, and it's right between Indiana and Chicago, and they're right on it with an artesian limestone.
The whole
spring.
I saw that video. That was fucking cool.
Yeah,
that was
the
cool.
whole Middle West is full of limestone. The city I live in, there's streets named Limestone Street. Harvester, the truck company, has their plants built on top of these limestone places because the foundation is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And they're not distilling shit.
Well, two things. So first and foremost, I think that there's a guy out there that's going to help change Kentucky in the coming years, and I have no problem saying who that is, and it's Macaulay Mitten. You guys are probably familiar with him
Yes,
from
love Macaulay.
Wilderness. So he's starting his own thing. He's our next guest on If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything podcast. It'll be out this Sunday, wherever you get your podcasts. But he's going to be doing some really cool blending experience sort of things. And then he's also dropping in 100-gallon experimental still. And I think you're going to see some really unique things come out of Macaulay. And Macaulay's got that ambassador sort of ideal about him anyways. He's going to be able to open the door and change some things when it comes to Kentucky, I think.
He's so unique, right? As an individual, he just gets along. He can play along with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I say play along because, there's an aspect you really kind of got to get to know him. And I don't think I've gotten to that point, but you can tell that he's deep, but he's friendly.
He's one of the best guys in general in this industry out there. Incredibly open. He's incredibly spiritual. A lot of people don't realize that. One of the reasons that he and I get along so well is because he has no problem talking about his spirituality and how that relates to what he does in the world of whiskey. And there's very few who do that. And that's what was fun about having him on If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything podcast is we went deep into all that stuff. And I consider him a brother, and he's a great guy, and he's going to be doing some really, really cool stuff in the very near future. I think down around Lexington or Frankfurt, I'm pretty sure. So.
Okay. And he's the right people are backing him.
Oh yeah.
I can only imagine who they are, but use your imagination.
Well, I don't know who his backers are on that, but I know that they've got a little firepower. So
yeah, just when you think about it, didn't Wilderness Trail just sell?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Those people have to do something, don't they?
Right. Right.
Anyways,
the other one that I'm excited about though too, and I'll say this because this wraps my other project in because you asked what was new, but that's one of the reasons I love doing One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, because the people who are into advanced home distilling that I'm trying to help on that show on YouTube in particular, those are the people that are going to be opening craft distilleries in the next 5 and 10 years. And they are completely fine with pushing the envelope. They don't care to drop everything they make into the distilled spirit specialty category. And there's nothing wrong with that category whatsoever. And they don't, most of them aren't going to go start huge multi-million-dollar distilleries. They're going to lean into, like Inbox Beverage, which is a group we had on Distillers Talk, and they literally sell stills and shipping containers that are set up. They're ready to go. You drop them on a lot. They've got all the production contained within that shipping container. All you need is a place to put it and the license to have it.
Oh my God. That's fucking genius.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I need one of those.
Oh, they're so cool, dude. You get them with it comes with a 250-gallon still, 250-gallon cooker. I think there's 2 fermenters that come in them. You can get them with build out, those campers you get that have the build outs that pop out. They can do that kind of stuff with them. They come with chillers. It's set up. It's ready to go. A couple $100,000. You have an empty lot. You set it up. You set up your tables there. You want to make gin in some suburb of Minnesota? There you go. That's how you do it. And you save a ton of money doing it. You don't have to have millions and millions of dollars to do it, right? And most of these guys that are home distillers, I'm just going to be honest with you. Most of the ones that I'm dealing with on One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute are so far advanced in distillation beyond anything that you guys are seeing in the industry. I mean, all the cool stuff that's going to be quote unquote cutting edge technology in the next 5 years, that's where it's coming from. It's not being innovated by anybody in the space dealing with actual craft distillers. It's being done by people in that home distilling space. They're the ones that are making the cool stuff and doing the innovations that are going to change things.
Awesome.
So let's get the actual podcast going. Otherwise, we're going to be here all night. So
I'll fucking ramble. You know how I am.
I love that you ramble.
Wait a minute, Alan. We know how Jeff is.
Yeah.
Right. Jeff Jeff over here telling a fucking story again. Are we getting to the point anytime soon? No.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing skinny pants, guys.
Started, Jeff?
Hey,
Whiskey,
Alan,
you hear what he just said? I'm wearing skinny pants, guys.
Alan, we have a new safety word for Jeff now, because if he keeps going, we're supposed to say
No.
And
Yeah.
that's supposed to be code word for Dick Knows Dolphin and
Dick-
shut the fuck up.
There it is. There it is. Right there. The rare, elusive.
Cue card
Can we
coming in.
can we change the safe word to like Nickelback so that way when you guys are on a barrel pick, like they're like, why do they just keep saying Nickelback?
Hey, Nickelback just announced concert in Cincinnati.
Oh, it's a shame that they didn't catch on fire.
Hey, they're coming with
Oh,
Brantley Gilbert. Brantley Gilbert does pretty good show.
fair enough. I mean, somebody's gonna have to because Nickelback ain't going to.
Well, you know.
All right.
This is Alan Bishop, head alchemist at Spirits of French Lick. Be on the lookout for a brand new bottled and bond Solomon Scott rye whiskey. Made from a mash composed of 65% rye, 35% corn, and 5% victory malt. This 5-year-old 100 proof rye whiskey is a throwback to early 1800s style rye whiskeys of the Ohio Valley. Named after the legendary Daisy Spring Mill distillery owner turned moonshiner Solomon Scott of Paoli, Indiana. Remember, drink responsibly and never drink and drive.
Drinking bourbon, sipping on some scotch. We get a little wild, but it's sure fun to watch. We love what we do, we're drinking every brew. Man, we talk some shit, but we're telling the truth. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, raising some hell and making some noise. Yeah, we're the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. We're here to have fun and we hope you enjoy. We're here to have fun, yeah.
Whoa. All right. Welcome back to another podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. Thank you, Kenny Fuller, for the theme song. We really appreciate it. That was Luca Mariano, Old Americana Band. And we here tonight, this is our first ever 5-guest podcast for Scotchy Bourbon Boys. And we have the alchemist, Alan Bishop, the master distiller of the Spirit of French Lick. Welcome, Alan, to the podcast tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, as always.
We have Whiskey here also. Thanks for coming in, Whiskey.
Right, whiskey.
No,
Got CT up there.
Just gives a thumbs up. That works really well on the audio podcast there.
I gotta say that I love that you've now mastered your podcast voice, by the way.
Who, me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
You gotta-
trying.
There's a whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And then also we have CT. Welcome.
Hey,
in. And then
Thank you. And I would just like to formally apologize to Alan for all that could happen during this podcast. So Alan, I apologize. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend it with us.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Mezcal.
No,
Anyways,
I have
also
seen a couple.
Super Nash.
What'd you
Oh, there you
say?
go.
Say nothing. Super Nash, welcome in. Yeah.
Super Nash, I know you're a little older. Do you know what that actually means?
Absolutely not. but I went to the Alan Bishop experience one time.
Mhm. You know, people, and you guys know this, you've seen it happen. Like I started that as a joke, right? Because
Yeah.
the whole industry is a little bit pretentious. And I thought, well, if I can get people to do the shocker in a photo, or I can do the shocker in a photo, then they're guilty alongside me, right? And so it sort of breaks them down. But now it's become a thing because I stopped doing it for a while, and people will come by and they want to get a picture. And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, oh, we got to do one with the shocker.
Oh yeah.
So it's become a thing, whether, you know, I may not want it to be a thing still in 20 years, but I think it's stuck now.
Well,
so.
think how fucked up
Too late for
me and
that.
Roxy were doing when we were doing the shocker, but we were doing W for whiskey. I told you that, and you're just going,
Man, they don't know.
They have no idea.
They
I'm
have no
not I'm not going to inform them and ruin it for everyone.
When you got to explain it to your grandmother, I think your attitude towards that'll change.
Oh no, I'd still explain it to her. It'd be all right. She'd be mad for a minute,
Yeah.
but
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you we must die.
So with distilling,
Mhm.
what they looked for forever was consistency of a brand. It was impossible to do almost forever, right? When
Yeah.
you're talking about pre-prohibition and when you're talking about all that, everybody wanted, like, if your brand was this, because what would you say? What part of I'll ask you this right now. What part of the whiskey market is the people who, when they go to the liquor store, don't give a shit about what's on the top shelf? They're looking for something they want that's going to taste the same every time they drink it. What is that percentage of the market? What?
oh, it's a high percentage.
Yeah,
It's a
what
very
is it?
high.
60, 70, 80?
I'd say closer to 90, honestly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
But
agree.
But
It's
is that
90%.
changing?
That's where Jim Beam and Jack Daniels live. There's no
But
doubt
is
about
that
it.
changing?
So here's what I think, and I see where you're driving at here. So it is changing to some degree. Now, I have two sides of this and two folds of story that I can tell. So the first one is that if you want consistency, yes, pot still is not where you want to go. If you want consistency in pot still, it's all about blending. You don't create consistency off the still with pot still. You create it over time by blending your barrels together. And I feel like this is an area that I don't feel like we get enough credit in particular, because I put a lot of time and effort into this. So you'll see awards ceremonies, right? And a lot of award ceremonies, yes, are pay for play, but there's some really great ones. And we usually place pretty well in those. Like, now some people be like, well, you only won a bronze or a gold or whatever, a silver, right? But look at what we're winning it on. I'm not putting single barrels in award ceremonies, guys. I'm putting fucking blends, my bottled and bond everyday drinkers in award ceremonies. And that's what we're medaling on. I could double medal, double gold, double platinum on fucking single barrels. Easy. What's the point? You can't fucking get it.
Can't
Right?
get it anymore.
Exactly.
By
Exactly.
the time it won
Unless
double
you
gold,
know
can't
you-
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm super proud of that. Like, if we win anything in one of the award ceremonies that I think is a legit one, and there are some that I do think are legit, I'm all about that, because that is an everyday drinker winning that award. Absolutely.
This
And everybody
conversation
can get it.
This
Yeah.
conversation came up today because a local distillery did a bottle that Jeff knows very well, that I take a blend. I take one of their bottles and another one, blend it together. Well, then they came out with that blend.
Mhm.
Well, batch 7 won double gold. Well,
Right.
batch 6 and 8 don't taste the same as 7. So
Yep.
it's like,
Exactly.
I get what you mean. It's like when you send in a single barrel or a one-off kind of thing, it's hard for people to understand that you can't go buy that bottle anymore.
And the single barrels that I would want to send to competitions are so far off fucking kilter, like that palindrome. Like, nobody's going to award, nobody who's a brandy snob is awarding the smoked apple brandy shit, because they're like, what the hell is in this glass, right? Which is fine. But now here's
get fucked up.
here's the other side of it. You know, my distillery is in a unique position. We are, and I had not thought about this until recently, we are literally the fucking first 2 Evil Dead movies in the franchise. We just have a cult following. That's what we have.
Yeah.
And that's completely fine. That sustains us. I'm fine with that 100%. we sell as many single barrels as far as liquid goes as we do bulk product every year. And it would be very easy for us to kick everything to single barrel and really promote the single barrel program. That wouldn't be a problem. We could sell everything we have single barrel.
I mean,
because
whiskey does that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So, and I could do that very, very easily, and it would be fun. And at some point it may have to go there, because if they ever expand, so long as I'm involved, it's always going to be pot still. Right. I mean, we could, right now we're feeding about 15 states and Canada. If I went to 2 shifts, I might be able to get that to 20 states by the time everything catches up. Maybe. If we added a couple more stills,
make it Ohio.
right?
Make
If we
one.
had added,
I'm going to have to work on Laurel because
yes,
we need it in Ohio.
if we added a couple more stills, we could add a few more states as well. That's a possibility. But the long and short of it, where I'm talking about the single barrel thing. So think about this: you go to one of the big guys. All the big guys are all running the same 3 or 4 mash bills. They're all using the same yeast, short of wild turkey. And I'm not by no means am I shit talking Kentucky bourbon, because I like Kentucky bourbon. Okay, it's not my favorite thing, but I do like it. It's respectable. I respect all those big guys. They're all using basically the same protocols. They're all using basically the same stills. They're all using basically the same yeast, same mash bills, the whole thing, and it's consistent.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Woodford Reserve. So I went there in 2019.
Mhm.
They had these giant pot stills.
Right.
From
Scotland.
Scotland.
Yeah. Yep.
And they were, and what I heard is they weren't running. They were using, they basically were using Old Forester, and that's what they started Woodford Reserve. But now they're up to 6 pot stills and they're running.
Right.
Does that intrigue you?
My understanding has always been that that's the case with them, and everybody I've ever talked to about, to be fair, has always been open with me about that. What goes in that bottle for their mainline products is only about 10%, made there at the building, and then the rest of it is obviously, other product from them.
Well, they run. It's basically Brown and Foreman. They
Yeah.
can pull from anywhere.
Yeah. And to be fair, they could lose everything they fucking had and held on to Jack Daniels and still be fucking fine.
Yeah, no,
You know?
no kidding. Jack Daniels just it sells without. Yeah.
So when you
Frank Sinatra and Jack,
right. So when you look at the single barrel prospect, those big guys, they're all running the same stuff, right? And so the only variations they have, what do they focus on when you go pick a barrel from them? They focus on warehouse location, and every tree is different. That's the only variables you have there. The variables we have are 15 different yeast strains. If I want to use 15 different yeast strains, the variables are come taste Lee Sinclair White Dog off the still in the middle of winter when it's cold as shit and it's refluxing naturally and going to a higher proof and higher purity, versus in the summertime when we're not getting that reflux. Come try the Lee Sinclair that I did on a Tuesday when I was in a decent mood, and then the one I did on a Friday when I was fucking hungover and I didn't want to do it. Right. And then all of a sudden the character of those barrels becomes much, much, much more interesting and intriguing. And we've been very, very lucky. I think since we've really started doing our bottled and bond products, or even the 2-year products.
Alan.
Yes.
I disagree with that.
What's that?
It's not luck.
Right. Well,
you're dedicated. It's like fuck luck. There's no luck.
Right.
You have evolved.
You create your own luck.
No. I mean, there's just whatever luck you get, you know how to use it, and then you put it where it needs to go. So that's skill. So okay, keep going. Yeah.
So we've only ever kicked a barrel out of the program, like completely out of the program. Like something was fucked up with that barrel, and it wasn't.
Can we get one of those barrels?
No, because that fucking barrel it's going to get redistilled into fucking vodka. Is what's going to happen to it. So
you guys make vodka?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I will tell you this. So the other thing we didn't get into on the technical aspect. So there is a type of column still that I would run. There's a type of column still that I very much so love, and I have run one before in California, and it's called a coffee column. And this is really the original column still. But so I mentioned the Kentucky Low Rec was a tool of industrialization, right? It's like the bare minimum. What can you get by with that'll run a whole bunch of stuff real fast, versus the coffee column? The coffee column has multiple outputs on multiple plates. So you can fractionate everything. So if you want to pull nothing but the aldehyde off as a byproduct from one plate, You can literally hold all that aldehyde on one plate, pull it off as it's distilled, sell that off as fingernail polish remover, whatever you want to sell it as, right? You can pull a fraction at whatever proof you want to. If you want to pull the proof at 120 something and it's a fraction that's very floral, you can sit there and pull off of that plate alone for your product and keep dropping back onto that plate and rectifying. They are precision instruments, and you very rarely see them in the United States. You do see it like the grain distilleries in Scotland. That's what they tend to still have to this day. That's why Scottish all grain whiskeys have that similar flavor to bourbon, because they're able to be very specific about what compounds they're pulling off.
So that's a fantasy column still for you.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell I would do it or what I need it for, but they're cool. I'll give you that.
Can Ozark make one?
You'd make
Oh, yeah.
spirits, and people. It's still fascinating to me. So we were talking about the history of whiskey. 100% the United States of America exists today because of whiskey and distilling. There's no doubt.
Absolutely.
Their
No doubt.
taxes, it paid for the Revolutionary War. It paid for every war up until World War II. It didn't pay for World War II. It basically made all the fuel for the planes. It paid for World War II.
Well,
It's insane what whiskey has done for this.
It got us out of COVID.
They why is that not taught to your daughter in Indiana?
Right.
Basically, without whiskey or distilling, this country doesn't exist.
Oh,
Because
absolutely.
You're leaving off that it basically put organized crime on the map.
But they were there already.
There's
They
always
just
going to be
found
something.
out as a resource.
No. You're wrong, whiskey. It basically made organized crime. Organized crime.
Pants are too tight.
Yeah, I'm on absence now. It's going to go south from here. But at the same time, it made organized crime legitimate. They basically, after Prohibition, what did Buffalo Trace kick out?
Government taxes made the fucking crime legitimate from the very get-go, not even just Prohibition. I mean, so here's a piece of history that's lost. And this was part of what helped to kill Indiana over time. So back when they first introduced the excise tax in 1862, Indiana never had an excise tax before that, because we were not yet a state during, Revolutionary War of 1812. We literally had the taxes here for like a month. Nobody ever fucking paid them, because who's going to enforce it, right?
Right.
So you end up with 3 generations of stubborn German ancestor distillers in southern Indiana, and you get to 1862, you introduce an excise tax. Not only do you introduce an excise tax, you introduce a shitty excise tax, because everything is based on potential capacity of what you could produce. All right. Now, bear in mind, you're not talking to grain distillers. You're talking to apple and peach brandy distillers, right? They're seasonal. They run from August until January. Some of these guys are making 2 barrels a year. They've got a 40-gallon still. Some of them are, running big operations, 1,200 barrels a year. Put that in perspective. 3 bushels of apples to 1 gallon of brandy, right? They're running all the time, 24/7, August till January. Then they come in on this tax thing, and they go to the guy with the 40-gallon still, and they're like, we know how much you make a year. We know how much you should pay us taxes for. But what we want and what we will get is to tax you based on capacity, such that we know you could run that 40-gallon still twice a day, 6 days a week, every week of the year. And here's what you'd produce. That's what you fucking owe us taxes on. So what did all those little Hoosier distillers do? They said, well, fuck you. And they went underground and they started doing it illicitly, right?
Yeah.
Even when they changed the tax on that, for example, in Orange County, the Wolves, they had distilled for 3 generations. When the 1862 whiskey tax hit, they claimed their old distillery out in Stillhouse Hollow burned down. They built a new steam distillery next to the modern turnpike. Well, the old distillery never burned down. They ran that distillery illicitly from 1862 all the way up until at least 1931. And during the time before Prohibition, they ran it right alongside their legal distillery. So we know their legal distillery was making about 300 barrels a year. What was that illicit one making?
So the illicit one was making moonshine, right? Because the definition of moonshine is you make illegal distillate illegally.
You don't pay
and
taxes
don't
on
pay taxes on
Because
it.
you don't pay taxes on
Right,
them.
and you can't make illegal whiskey, you can't make illegal peach brandy, because if you make it legally, it's not moonshine. Right?
But in 1862 or whatever, it probably wasn't the same. I mean,
What I think culturally looking at it too, and you look at it from these people all being from the Black Forest of Germany, I think that they would have a different view of it than like what would be in the South with moonshine, right? I think that in their mind, this is just the government trying to fuck them to a greater degree or lesser degree. They're still to this day, we're very tribal, just like in Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia. I don't know that they would have seen that illegal brandy as being quote unquote moonshine. I think that they might have even been offended by calling it moonshine, because to them and for what they did and what they were into, their real thoughts on it would be, well, really the only person that can decide whether what I'm doing is illegal or wrong is God. Pretty sure God doesn't care whether you call it moonshine or brandy, right? So I don't think they saw it the same way. And typically what I've seen from the history here is that illegal stuff that was made here, that was the stuff for local consumption. That was the stuff that was, you don't charge tax to friends and family,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Right, definitely. And there was enough people looking for that.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
Sounds really cool.
that is cool as fuck.
Yeah, it is.
Your dedication to Indiana and distilling is amazing. I mean, honestly, you can feel your love for distilling in your state, bringing back the history that's been lost. I mean, just between what you're doing at French Lick with how you label the bottles, and then also what you do at that distillery, and then also the mill that I visited you at that, and you were doing, you were making a fermentation mash there. I mean, that dedication to history is something that is unique to you. There's a lot of different distilleries. They're dedicated to their distilleries, but you're dedicated to the state of Indiana because they were a part of American history distillery. And basically what happened and everything that was happening led to the fact that Indiana was kind of erased for a while, and you're just trying to put them into their proper position, right?
Yeah, back where they belong. And there's pride in that too. So, one of the cool things about the Black Forest region, because it was so tribal, so nobody from the Whiskey Trust ever owned anything here. They wouldn't even fuck with it. They knew better than to come into this region. So there's some real pride there. And, if you're going to be on the quote unquote wrong side of the river and make bourbon, I've said this many times on podcasts, but we don't have Fred Minnick. We don't have a Mike Veach. I have had to become that person for Indiana because there wasn't anyone else to do that. And I love it. My family is not from here, but my wife's family is. And subsequently my daughter's family is. And people do not realize the absolute beauty, in particular of Southern Indiana, in my opinion, as well as the depth of history that's here in Southern Indiana. And we do not get our fair share. We don't get our dues. There's a reason it's called Southern Indiana. There is a cultural difference between it and the rest and I love the rest of Indiana too, but it's almost its own state, and it needs to be represented better than what it has been.
You drive into Southern Indiana, where you're at, where Starlight, all that in Southern Indiana, and then you go up north above Indianapolis. It's two totally different states as far as just the geographical lay of the land.
And
it's
culturally, with people, it's different. With people, it's different. There's I saw a map of Indiana.
Great.
I think so. I get a little bored when I get up past where the hills are at, for sure. But I saw a map one time that I thought was great. I had to find it again, but it divided Indiana up into its different regions, and our region was like the woods people. And I'm like, that's exactly what this is to a T. So.
Well, you didn't. I think, during the time that everybody was coming from Chicago trying to find a new place, they probably went to Indianapolis, and that's about where it stopped, you know?
Yeah.
So the area you're in did not get migrated the same way.
Yeah. We obviously got the organized crime in French Lick and West Baden, but that actually worked out well for us in many ways. And the reason that happened was because, so French Lick and West Baden in particular, are great example. So when you drive to me, and I drive it every day when I drive into West Baden, the geography and that place does not look like it belongs there. That place feels to me like it should be in like Southern Georgia. But geographically speaking, for organized crime, especially for like Diamond Jim before Al Capone, what a great place to have operations, because you're equidistant basically between St. Louis, Louisville, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati, and you're off the beaten path. Nobody was going to mess with those guys at all there. So, but no, I love Indiana, and that's, you know, I wouldn't say that's an impossibility that I could go somewhere else, but I'd say statistically improbable within like 99.9% that I would ever go to another state to distill. So,
and I don't think you have to anymore. You know, there's some going on that why would you? You know,
Mhm.
Yeah. And I mean, you promote so much for Indiana. So
Right.
yeah, why would you?
I'm going for the elusive sycamore. You guys haven't even heard of this, have you? Because
No.
I don't think they've given one away in like 30 years, but you know, everybody in Kentucky's Kentucky Colonel. There's like 3 fucking Indiana sycamores. Getting that fucking thing before I die one of these days. It's coming.
what do we got to do to make that happen?
I don't know. I don't even know if they still give them away, honestly. That's how rare they are. So, but that's my joke. That's
he's like telling us.
Oh, I mean, you got Jeff that's willing to double team. So I mean, you know, he might be able to slide it across the finish line for you.
Yeah, we're right there.
Oh yeah.
you know, if he goes
Way
and
to go,
goes,
Jeff.
he
Going-
go have a
for the team.
have a little conversation up there with our governor in those Def Leppard pants. He could for sure
Yeah.
get some. He'd get a reaction. I don't know if it'd be the proper reaction, but he'd get a reaction.
Well,
Alan,
I'm just gonna
You're on.
Alan, I'm gonna spitball this.
He's
But you know, here I am. I'm looking at the William Dalton label, right? So here we are, and I'm going, is that Tiny? with hair.
Right.
So can you? So I think you should bottle that one barrel, and you should call it Randy Wodes, but you have to call it like Sergeant Randy Wodes or
Duthy
Lieutenant
Wodes.
Colonel
Yes.
Randy Wodes,
Right.
and then just take this picture and take all that hair off the top, and then put a baseball cap on backwards. Because that dude does not show his chrome dome to anybody.
I will step that up one. So here's the notch that I will step that up to.
Okay.
So Jeff Mueller is now, you know, a bona fide single barrel slinger out there, right?
Yes.
That's why he's got the pants on. He's building his character. We all have characters. I have a character that I play. Waddell has a character that he plays. Macaulay has a character that he plays. Jeff's building his character. The very next Scotchy Bourbon Boys barrel pick from Spirits of French Lick. He needs to take them fucking pants, cut them motherfuckers up, and instead of doing a barrel sticker, he just puts a piece of those fucking pants with a piece of damn clear packing tape on the bottle.
Yep. Yeah,
What?
that would work, Alan.
I will do that.
It would
but
be like
what's the barrel pick?
Oh yeah.
Are we doing?
it would
Are we
be
doing a light
it'd be-
whiskey barrel pick?
No, we're doing an apple brandy freaking barrel pick next time.
No,
That's-
the apple brandy's.
Mezcal apple brandy.
Oh yeah, we will. We'll. Oh,
honestly, Alan, that's a great
Put it
idea. It'd
on
be
the
like
barrel
a
and
tops of
each
baseball
bottle.
game worn jersey card.
Yeah, or you remember like WWF, WWE, they used to do that, you know, like somehow it'd bleed on the mat, then like a week later you'd be like, buy a piece of this mat. Why the fuck do I want
Oh
that?
yeah. Yep.
Well, every
Because
baseball
you
card
want to
has
know
like
that he
a
can't wear
jersey
them again.
that's cut into a 1 by 1 inch square.
That's our point exactly.
And
CT.
somehow
He
that's
can't
worth
wear them again.
Can't wear
once
'em
he
anymore.
puts 'em up.
Yes. You know what I see is he's gonna get so tired of us making fun of these pants, but he wants it so bad to be part of his character.
Yeah.
At Casa D. Jeffrey Mueller, there's going to be a flagpole in the front yard with these fucking pants on a flagpole, right? Just
But in the wind.
Do you know anybody
No.
from Indiana who can do that?
Are you don't have to be? I mean, there's hillbillies everywhere, brother. I'm just saying. Listen, here you go. Here's something else that you guys don't know because nobody's going to say it. I'm going to say it, and this is not up for discussion. I'm just going to say it. This is the most woke fucking industry in the fucking world for a bunch of people that like to fucking drink, right? And that's fine. Maybe it has its place, maybe it doesn't, but there's a whole discussion there. It's hard to be a libertarian and or a conservative and be in this industry sometimes.
I mean, that's how we became friends, right? I mean, you basically were like, you know,
I thought he thought
they're
you looked good in
taking
those
some
pants.
heat, and you're
Are
just
you
like,
talking to me?
But I will say there are a lot of whiskey drinker. Whiskey is
Look,
a neutralizer between
yes,
all politics.
absolutely.
It should be
100%.
Yeah.
It's like if you're sharing some, you know, William Dalton with anybody, it neutralizes all politics, and that's the great thing about whiskey.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, personally, I don't care what anybody thinks, what they believe, what they want to do. That's more power to them as long as it's not being pushed on anybody. Like I don't, you know, I'm not going out and pushing, I force you to believe in magic and the occult and the Fortean because I'm into that, right? And I also, everyone, conservatives and liberals take themselves way too fucking seriously. This, especially in this industry, we're not, you know, I've said it a million times, we're not curing cancer, we're making whiskey. And you got to be able to make fun of yourself, right? I call myself the alchemist. Did I know when I called myself that I was going to get made fun of? Fuck yeah. And I make a lot of jokes at my own expense. You should be willing to laugh at yourself a little bit.
Hell yeah.
So,
but you technically,
and I want to go on,
alchemist.
on record. I'm not making fun of anybody or any politics or anything like that. You know, like I say, I love whiskey. I love people in all generations and everything. You know, it's just fun.
It's room for all of them.
But
yeah, there's room for all of us in this world, you know, and just, that's just the way I feel.
So
I agree. Are we about to bust? Wait, are we about to bust out in a round of Kumbaya or what?
No, we're not. Because that is the
Alan
one
to
song that I will not sing with you, whiskey.
Let's take.
But I will have a drink with you.
So
it's 10:45,
and I will sing the Scotchy Bourbon Boys song with you.
So Alan, you've got the One Piece of Time Distilling Institute. Talk about that, and then let's talk about if you have ghosts, you have everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So as though I needed more projects in this world, but you know, I'm no longer a home distiller. I play one on the internet sometimes, but I'm very passionate about home distilling and the legalization of home distilling. And that's one thing I think that was missing from people that were in the home distilling movement was actual professional distillers that could answer questions. And so there's a lot of guys that I follow, you know, Jesse from Still It is a great guy. And I watch, I think this shocked. You're welcome. Yeah. I think this shocked Jesse too. When I told him, I said, you know, you'd be surprised the number of professional distillers that watch your channel during lunchtime. Right. So I wanted to get in on that somehow. And for a long time, I did the forums and stuff, and that just becomes an argument and all that shit. And so I saw what Jesse was doing, what Bearded and Board were doing. I thought, well, I could do something like that. Right. It doesn't have to be like high end production stuff, but just answer questions from home distillers about what they're doing and how they improve their craft, they make better product. And as you do that, and the more depth that they get, and it's a very limited audience, don't get me wrong, it definitely is. As you do that and they get more depth, then that makes them think, well, hey, I could maybe do this on the legal side and get a job doing it. And then that's where the fun stuff comes in for me. So I do that over on YouTube. Take questions, all types of questions, keep questions coming at bishopshomegrown@gmail.com or in the YouTube comments on those videos. Because that's what keeps the channel going. And then that becomes an outlet as well for, you know, writing the various books I've written about distillation or putting out the various documentaries about distillation, etc. So far, all the money from those projects has just gone right back into doing this sort of stuff or developing new things. And then there is a new podcast as well. We obviously do Distillers Talk with Christy Atkinson. And we've done that now for years. I think we're on episode 120 something at this point. That show just gets better and better. But we also have the One Piece at a Time. These are all very long names, by the way. One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute, Sacred and Profane. And what that is it'll eventually, right now there's 2 episodes up for free on Spotify. There's going to be a 3rd episode probably this week. I'll probably will eventually put that behind a little bit of a paywall, just to be able to make a little bit of money off of doing this stuff. But that one's fun for me because it's literally like the series right now. I'm breaking it down into series. And so the series for the first set of 7 or 8 episodes is natural fermentation and natural distillation as it was happening in the state of Indiana. If you were in Indiana in 1808 through 1812, right? Walking you through an apple brandy process or peach brandy process and how that's made. And you could actually do that based off the information that I'm giving you. So I love doing that kind of stuff. I love working with with Wayne from Ozark Still Works and Jason from 13 Stills. You know, I get excited about this stuff because I can come up with a million concepts in my head. I can't build that shit. I'm not mechanically inclined. I have learned to work copper to some degree in a very primitive way, which is what I wanted to learn, and I can build a still. But as far as advanced stuff, those guys are excellent at it. And, my goal is to, with those 2 guys in particular, is to help them to help other people, A, and B, get them to a point where, especially Wayne, because he's still working his day job, get him to a point where he doesn't have to work that day job anymore, and he can start producing stills for craft distillers.
Well, you do have some books and products out there. So where can these people get these things?
Yeah, so all that stuff, I try to keep everything under one umbrella on the internet. So it's thealchemistcabinet.com, and the store on there is called The Warehouse. And so we'll put up like some limited like print on demand t-shirts and shit like that. We do we have Bo Cumberland's documentary, The Alan Bishop Experience, which was a blast, and you were part of that.
Yeah,
we have a DVD where I did a historic talk about distilling in Southern Indiana at the Salem, Indiana Depot. That was a lot of fun. And then the 2 Alchemist Cabinet books. So Alchemist Cabinet Volume 1, Philosophy, which is like sort of me really finding myself as a distiller when I started at Spirits of French Lick, and it tells a little bit of the background of my family and the distilling in my family, and then gives some recipes and stuff. And then Volume 2 just recently came out, and that's like a hardcore distiller's workbook. Like there's recipes in there, like there's mash bills in there, there's botanical spirits. If you want to know how to make we'll just throw something weird out there. You want to make a fucking pastis from orange juice? You can make a pastis from orange juice. I don't know what the fuck you're going to do with it or why you'd make it, but apparently I did that at one point and it's in there. So Volume 3, I'm sort of toying around with in my head because at some point, and I know that I'm an odd commodity, like I said, sort of the cult following, right? So I figure it like this. I've got about 3,000 hardcore followers on the legal side of things and about 2,000 on the illicit side. I'm never going to be that guy that has 30,000 fucking followers on YouTube or whatever, and that's fine because the ones I have are of quality. So now we're at the point where
that's the ones you want.
Distilling and spirituality, we're at the point now where those 2 things are going to start to come together in book 3. Specifically, if you guys are familiar with If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, I did an episode called Me and the Crows, and that gives some of that background to some degree so that people start to get that understanding. And we're going to have a lot more conversations about that on that podcast this year. In fact, the one that I just did with Macaulay that'll be up on probably on Sunday, we went deep down that rabbit hole. So jumping back to the spirituality thing too, the other thing I want to mention here. So if that's something you guys are interested in or anybody's interested in out there and they want to get an idea of where that's headed. So I just recently, a lot of things have changed this year now that I've started doing these podcasts. So I was lucky enough to start getting to work with Jesse Wilson from Still It, like I said, Chase the Craft. And I really like working with him, and I look up to him big time. He's cool. He's a great voice for craft distillers and home distillers. But I also was recently lucky enough with If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything. That audience is starting to grow, and it's been very slow growth, and that's fine. But I was able to get in with a gentleman who podcasts from here in Northern Indiana, one of my favorite podcasts that I listen to on a daily basis called Uncomfortable. And so the podcast that I did with him went deep into the spirituality behind what Spirits of French Lick does and has done, and what I've done in my life as a distiller and how those are related and the alchemy behind it and all that stuff. And it's a really good overview of where in time over the coming seasons, where If You Have Ghosts, we'll be delving a little bit more into, because the big thing that I wanted to do when I started this paranormal podcast, 4TN podcast, whatever, and it's not just about ghosts, as any of you that have listened to it know, is for every like one really great podcast episode for most of these podcasts that are out there, there's 9 more that just suck completely. And so I don't want to do that. And I want to be able to I think combining the distillation aspect, the alchemy aspect into the 14, the paranormal, etc. I think it works in a unique way. And I think there's a lot of crossover there. I mean, how many distillery stories have you heard about haunted distilleries, right? Or hell, every damn label that you guys have of mine has got, almost every label has got a dead person on it, right? And there's a reason for that. They all have interesting stories, and sometimes weird stuff happens with that.
Except for William Dalton, it has Tiny on it.
It has Pants Man on it.
If you think about it, almost every distillery has, such a unique old history with, that happened and has some spirits about it,
I mean, Alan, who's to say that if you revive a brand, that the people who ran the brand back then aren't going to haunt you? I mean, who's going to say it? You know what I mean?
That's why you take bottles to their graves, so that you don't have to worry about that. But I can say that I've had enough 14 shit happen to me where, especially at demonstrations and stuff, I'd be talking about somebody or a particular place, and something would just pop in my head that I didn't even know, and it would just come out. And then I'd look later and I'd be like, where the fuck did that come from? Right? That's there for a reason. And it's because some of this stuff is necromancy. I mean, you guys didn't know who Maddie Gladden was. That was not a story that you knew. That was not a story that people in New Orleans knew. That was not a story that people in Canada knew. And it's not a story that you would otherwise know if it wasn't on a bottle. There'd be a handful of us people here in Washington County that are really into history that would know that story. And you would tell it when you go get your hair cut to your barber. And that's the only time that story would ever get fucking told. Right? But you put it on a bottle, which now she's as alive as she ever was, and her story's being told.
I can't tell you how many times I've told that story to people that I've shared this bottle with, and to my family and all that I've shared a pour with. Yeah. So,
or take
you say you shared a pour with?
Yeah. yes.
That was just Tiny.
Or even I'll throw another one here. Take William Dalton. All right, if Spirits of French Lick didn't exist, we didn't put out William Dalton, and West Fork existed, and they did their fucking Old Hamer, and that's a whole thing there too, but we won't get into that. The Dalton story never would have gotten told, right? And so the guy who actually worked that distillery for 40 plus years, he would have nothing to remember him by. There's one picture. We know of one picture. That's it, right? So that story would have been completely lost to time, and Hamer would have gotten credit, which credit he should have credit for being the owner and starting it. But if it weren't for us doing what we're doing, Dalton never would have had his time to shine. And hell, I meet these families. Like, I didn't know that there were any of the Dalton family left. I've had his direct descendant, great grandson come in. Charles Ballard's great grandson came in and hung out with me.
William,
that's so fucking cool, right there.
Yeah, I had
to meet him.
I thought all the Sinclairs were gone. I met she would be his great niece. Mm-hmm. She came to visit me. I had no idea any of the Sinclairs were left. That's cool stuff, right?
Yeah.
You say this, and I gotta ask this. When they come in, do you actually share a pour with them?
Oh, if they drank, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And in fact, the Dalton guy and the Ballard guy, and I need to reach out to him soon, but they're good people, and they don't drink much. They drink a little bit, but I'm going to get them up to the farm, and we're going to just have a day just to hang out sometime up at the farm.
Oh, wow.
On the Dalton guy, please invite me.
Yeah.
Because that you have respected their family with fantastic bourbon.
Yeah.
And if they found out that if they get invited up to the farm, that is super special.
You know, Alan, there's a level that you can take this one more step. Where, you have the William Dalton barrel picks, you have the William Dalton weeded whiskey that you sell, but there's another level you can take it for other people. I mean, that you pick that specific barrel, like you said, that you don't bottle.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of level that I want to reach.
Well, another
with you. And that I mean, I absolutely love your weeded bourbon. There's no doubt about it.
Well, you're gonna have to get rid of those pants first.
Fuck you.
Those pants are not allowed.
The next time.
No, I got okay.
They're not allowed at Spirits of French Lick.
No.
One more little paranormal aspect that I'm gonna throw in here, because I have not talked about this on podcasts before. So there are other families too, and I should mention their names more often than I do. So specifically the McCoy and the Wolf families. I don't have ancestry in Indiana, as we've talked about before, and those are two names that I can't use on a bottle because obviously McCoy is used elsewhere, and Wolf is Stolen Wolf. Although I do have permission from Eric Stoll to potentially use the name Wolf if I want to. But those two families are both distilling families with deep roots in originally the Shenandoah Valley and then in Orange County going back to 1818. And their descendants have basically adopted me and treated me like I'm a grandchild, and they're fucking awesome. They're awesome people. And that is something that would not, there's no other industry where that happens. It's not ever going to be a thing that happens, but that I get to tell their family stories and tell their history and be their representative in the world of distilling. So,
but just remember,
that's so fucking cool,
Alan. I mean, you are a phenomenal person. Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt. I just respect the shit out of you on how you exist, how you respect the industry. Every aspect of what you do is what I love about whiskey, what I love about people. You fit all the descriptions of what the kind of person I want to be around. And I'm proud of you. I love everything that you do. Your dedication, everything, all aspects, it's just covered.
I think he's about to propose.
No, I'm not proposing.
Are you going to bring out a ring?
You are a quality individual that exists on this planet, that respects his place where he is, but also contributes to every aspect of what would you say, the universal energy. And you keep doing that. There's no doubt why we're friends. I mean, there's a lot of people in the distilling industry that understand a lot of it, and I'm friends with them, but you understand it fully. And you just keep doing what you're doing, respecting what you're respecting, and keep exploring all the aspects of what distilling is, what life is. I mean, you and your wife, I mean, there's no doubt that Kimberly definitely she adds to everything that what you are. So
you do know that when Bo puts out that clip, you're going to take all that stuff back and you're going to be like, Alan's a fucking asshole.
No, I'm not.
I know. I'm just giving you shit.
You know what? You're an asshole when you need to be an asshole because people that don't understand what's going on. And they're mean to you. That's when you're an asshole.
Right. It's all good. It's all
good.
This
does bring up a question.
Yeah.
How did you sort of get into all this history and sort of bringing all this into the whiskey world and all? I mean, just were you always into the history and stuff like this, or did it just sort of once you started into the distilling process and all that, and then all of a sudden get it, once you got into the industry?
I've always been into history, and I think what kind of happened was growing up in Southern Indiana. I touch on this If You Have Ghosts in the first episode of the John Bowman House as well.
Okay.
But one of the aspects was just trying to learn more about Indiana history, because my parents didn't really know, because all their stories were Kentucky centric from the rest of my family. And so I started hanging out at a place called the John Hay Center and Museum, Stevens Museum. in Salem, Indiana. And, small town, it's very tribal. And even though my family's been here for 3 generations now, I'm still the new guy. So like all these old guys would be talking, right? And they always had like a cool thing, right? But you weren't, me being the new guy, I wasn't supposed to hear it, right? So they'd be talking and you hear something interesting and you like try to get involved in the conversation. They just shut your ass the fuck down, right?
Yeah.
So then I started hanging out there more and more and more and more and getting to know the guys. And then they started telling me stories. And then they, and I'm probably, there's a number of places in Washington County that I'm probably the only person that could tell you the history or show you where they're at. Because then they'd start showing you things. They'd be like, hey, you doing anything today? No, get in the truck. I'm going to show you something. Right. And a lot of those guys are dead and gone now. And if I hadn't gotten those stories, they wouldn't exist. But a lot of it came from being involved in Stevens Museum. I was at one point in time, I was the vice president of the Historical Society and the museum and all that stuff. And I think my interest in history and then my interest in distilling, just like my interest in agriculture and my interest in distilling, they're just great bedfellows. They just cross paths very easily. And then, I remember like the first time somebody was ever like, well, there used to be a distillery there. I didn't, but now we're going to fucking find out everything about it. So, but yeah, that's where it all comes from. All those crossroads, the crossroads of distilling, history, agriculture, and music.
All cross paths at the right time.
Yep, that's what I have. That's who I am and what I do. So
that's awesome. That's fucking awesome, brother.
For anybody into the paranormal stuff, though, check out If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, wherever you get podcasts. And if we did an episode with Jeff as well, and Roxy. And if you have cool stories and they're legitimate, don't try to bullshit me, because I will tell you, I haven't done it yet. But if you try to bullshit me with a story that I know is fake, I will call you the fuck out. Absolutely. But if you have a legit story to tell, something that happened to you or something that you're interested in or something you want to tell the world about the things beyond the veil, then I'm happy to host that conversation. And there are overarching stories that I'm not going to link directly to one another, but if you listen to the entirety of the shows in the coming years, you're going to hear certain things and you're going to go, oh, I remember this thing, and it's going to click. And there's a very large overarching story that's starting to happen now, involving various creation myths, various flood myths, and the Nephilim, giants, angels, dragon blood, etc. So it's good. There's cool stuff coming. I just have to figure out how to get it there. So,
and we should do maybe we should do a private tasting at Waverly Hills.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's Waverly's on the list. I've been there many times, and a couple of very good friends of mine are they've been ghost hunters for years, and they'll be on the show here shortly. And then next week, I'm interviewing a couple that I'm really excited about. So one of the overarching narratives between seasons 1 through 3 so far has been my story about what we had happen here on the farm, my friend Bill's story about what happened in Pekin, Indiana. And so I have a ghost hunting couple from here in Indiana that's just happened to have done a lot of research at a farmhouse that used to belong to our neighbors, where a gentleman lived, very famous, well, in certain circles, last name by the name of Souter. I can't remember his first name, but he was the handwriting expert on the Lindbergh baby case. But this house has got a lot of weird shit happening, and it all connects into the weird stuff that was in the stories about Pekin and the other episodes. And I think when people hear it, I won't make that connection for them. But when they hear it and they've heard those other episodes, they're going to be like, oh, because all these places are within just a couple miles of each other. They're all somewhat connected to the same families, and they're all connected to the same area near the railroad tracks. So,
cool.
You ever make it up to Black Moon Manor before they tore it down?
No, I didn't. And they've been there. This couple that's coming on have been there and done the whole thing. So, real curious.
That's not too far from you.
I've been to. There's a lot of, I don't know. There's a lot of places that aren't nearly as, famous or well known. But there's damn man. I mean, you could literally, like here in Washington County, you could easily make multi-part haunted tour, and French Lick is even fucking worse. Just the history in French Lick is insane. I'll tell you one that people don't know, not even a ghost story, but to just give you an idea of how weird things were. This is similar to the Maddie Gladden story. When you come into West Baden, Indiana, if you go to the visitor center, really cool old brick building when you first come into town. And of course has all the things the visitor center would have. But if you ever come in, ask the lady if you can go upstairs. And the reason is because that was actually a brothel all the way up until the 1970s. And so the rooms are actually still exactly as they were when they closed the brothel.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Oh, now you got Nash in.
Heck yeah.
Man, I wish that there were like any. I got to talk to the new owners of Matty Gladden House, but the old owners, there was never anything that happened at the Matty Gladden House. I want so desperately for there to have been something to have happened there now. But even when me, Bo, and Jolie were there,
you got to think that there was, but they just didn't want to talk about it or something like that.
It could be, and it could be. I don't know what their stance is on. All that. Some people get weird about that shit.
Exactly.
I've got a couple people in the industry right now that I've kind of like got halfway on the hook, but they won't pull the trigger because they think it's somehow going to affect their standing in the industry. And again, I just want to look at them and be like, we don't fucking cure cancer. Come on. No one fucking cares that you have a ghost story except for the people listening to the show.
The industry?
Yeah.
What? They're afraid that you'll make them more popular?
I don't know. I think they think that people think they're crazy or whatever, but
yeah, exactly. And can't hold that against them, but
it is what it is. I'll get them eventually.
There you go.
He's one
of
those guys, right? He's worried about being
right.
more crazy than he already is.
I'll tell you one more that's coming up this season that I'm very excited about. And this is thanks to Kevin Rose. He made this connection for me. And I was talking about this guy long before it was popular to talk about this guy. I was talking about him, and I was talking about Dick Stoll as well before anybody else other than Eric Wolf was mentioning their names. There's a certain podcast you can go back on and you can hear me say both of these guys' names, and the podcast I'm on, the guys are like, who's that? Except now, we know who these guys are, right? Whatever. It doesn't matter. There's a lot of fake shit in this industry. So Jerry Dalton is coming on. If you have ghosts, you have everything. So you guys familiar with Jerry? So he was the only non-Beam master distiller at Jim Beam. And the Jim Beam signature stuff they did with all the grains, the signature craft stuff, that was Jerry's stuff. Really? And Jerry's very much into the paranormal, the 14, etc. And
so where's Jerry now?
He lives in Louisville. Okay. So he's retired.
He's retired.
He's writing a book about distilling right now, including spirituality and distilling. And they're working on getting them, that same group of people, and at least they did this for him, I will say that, is working on getting him into the Bourbon Hall of Fame. So
how long was he the distiller there? That was not
I'd have to go back and look. He worked at Barton before that as well. I think 7 or 8 years, something like that. He was basically right in between Booker and Fred. So
okay.
Yep. So, he's the one that actually trained Fred. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm. But the corporate side
says that.
No, the corporate side basically erased that history. Yeah. Well, absolutely. And
that's spectacular.
And Freddie is such a cool dude to talk to in the first place. I mean, I've talked to him back and forth a few times, and he's not afraid to ask questions. He's not, he's I hesitate, and this comes off disrespectful sometimes. I hesitate sometimes to call some of the bigger distillers because I'm not sure how much do you actually know? How much can you know if it's handed to you in a file format and here's what we do and this is all we do? But Freddie is certainly a distiller. He's a real distiller. And I think that Jerry was as well. There's a good possibility that Jerry is also related to William Dalton. We're working on that right now. That's actually a thing that might be legitimate.
Have you said that before?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's
crazy. That's awesome.
Well, I find myself in weird positions. One of the last things I'll mention here that I think you guys will find really cool is, and I found this through Spring Mill last year. We did the candlelight tour, and myself and Brian Cushing from the Victorian Bar Room, when they were talking about distilling history and talking about the old distillery, and we talked to over 7,000 people that night. It was insane. But we met a gentleman, and I'm not going to say his name on the air because, again, this industry is full of a bunch of fucking fake people who want to jump onto other people's coattails and steal their shit. But I did happen to meet the very last yeast keeper at Stitzel Weller, and he's from Indiana, and he lives in Indiana. And I met the guy that I also happen to know the guy through him now, who taught him, who's still alive, who worked directly for Will McGill. The long and short of it, I now have the exact Stitzel Weller, not yeast, but the actual mash bill and process that Stitzel Weller was using as taught to them by Will McGill because of 2 yeast keepers who kept the yeast going in a Kentucky distillery but lived on the Indiana side of the river. So that's pretty cool shit. And nobody's getting their fucking names because they're not jumping on that shit.
That's fucking awesome, brother.
Yep.
I can't
Yep.
wait to see what you call that.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a yeast protocol, so it's not like, you know, it's not anything that's going to like break the mold or anything, but it's fucking cool. And the fact that it has Indiana roots, that's pretty impressive. And apparently, maybe the older guy, may or may not actually have a Donna jug that belonged to Stitzel Weller. So, yeah, pretty cool shit.
Oh yeah, that is some cool.
Hey,
shit.
if you name it, can you just name it the 5%? Since only 5% is made outside of Kentucky,
Yes.
we're the 5%.
The 5%. Yes, absolutely. Oh, that's so funny. It's so funny they're stuck on that. That's still stuck on that 5%.
I so hate that.
I mean, come on. Anybody that's ever, you guys ever, this is something you should work on. And if you need a contact, I might be able to get you a contact. Any of you guys ever actually been inside of MGP?
No, I'd like to.
The closest I've been is talking.
Can you get me a pass?
Greg. Greg from Old Elm. Wait, tell me the last name.
Metzke. Is that his last name? Yeah.
Yeah. He basically was a distiller there.
Yeah.
And basically was distilling whiskey or bourbon, malt bourbon. I mean, his malt. Well, you know, he has a malt mash bill.
Yeah.
That's 51% corn, but then malt's the second one. And that's what Old Elk is. I mean, and then basically Old Elk purchased all the product and it's still aging in Indiana. Yep. And then he started distilling it in Colorado and he's doing that, but that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. I mean, unless you guys go in there, and that's what I'm driving at here with that 5% thing, and they won't let you take pictures or anything, but guys, you can't fucking imagine how big that fucking place is and how just ungodly insane the amount of whiskey that is on hand just in one of those when you're talking about a warehouse that you walk into, and it can be July. And you walk into the middle of it and it's still winter temperatures in the middle of that warehouse because it holds on to the heat and the cold and it actually shifts the seasons by 6 months. That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
So,
but what it tells you, there's that even with that, they still can't make, you guys still can't make enough. It's insane. I mean, when you hear about
what it tells you
making pre-prohibition, we're still only at like what 80%.
No, what it tells you is that,
and we have
MGP,
what 200 million more,
which is the most highly sought after whiskey that's been laid down.
Well, yeah, it tells you that anybody that's going to say 95% is made in Kentucky, are you kidding me? I mean, there's just that's such a farce.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
absolutely.
It's marketing.
Hey, let me get in my sheep's coat and go follow the rest of these motherfuckers because that's about what it feels like, you know.
Yeah. That's one thing I'm incredibly proud of, and I love MGP, and they left the lights on for Indiana, but I've never bottled a drop of MGP, and I never will, no matter where I go. You know, there's plenty of it out there. So
I love you for that. And that's another thing. That's why the Scotchy Bourbon Boys are here to get this word out here that not all whiskey is made in Kentucky. It's made all across the United States. And, you know, Indiana is one of the great states that it's made in.
We do okay for doing it wrong.
Fucking A. Hell yeah.
I mean,
I hate to say it, but that sounds like something that statistic sounds like something somebody from Kentucky would say. You know, in order to be bourbon, it has to be made in Kentucky, and 95% of all bourbon is made in Kentucky.
Well,
That
they
shit
used to
started
say
in Kentucky.
95, now they say 92. They gave you
The-
3%.
The best backhanded compliment that I ever got, and I can't even be mad about it. The best backhanded compliment I ever got was from Jimmy Russell when he tried the Lee Sinclair 2-year-old, and then he asked me where we were and where we were from and all that stuff, and I said Indiana, and he just looked at me and he goes, "Do you have grandparents from Kentucky?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "You got enough in you."
Oh my God.
So, okay, thank you, sir. Thank you. May I have another?
Holy shit! Animal House.
Never
reference.
said that before. That's I mean, that's kudos. Your respect for distilling is right there with all the great distillers. There's no,
Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate it.
we appreciate it. I mean,
Yes.
we didn't even talk about your whiskey tonight. We just talked.
Nah, it's just rambling.
The
It's
whole
more
podcast
fun.
and rambled, but we all drank it. And
If we talk about the whiskey, the problem is just tell the same stories over and over again. You know, so the product's there. It speaks for itself. You guys are high on it, and you know, it's there for
Great
people that
stuff.
want it. It's hopefully it becomes a thing in time that becomes a little bit of a legacy for Indiana. So.
Well, I love what all the craft distillers are doing across the country, because what used to be something that Kentucky owned, the rest of the world, there's Texas distillers, there's Colorado distillers, there's Indiana distillers, there's Wisconsin distillers. They're all producing unique blends or whiskeys that are from their part of the country. And I know
There's
you
even
guys are
South
close,
Carolina distillers. They're stepping up. You know,
but you
they're
but
everywhere.
But what you're doing, Alan, is you're taking it to another level with other things.
Mhm.
And every place that you go, they're doing it too. And it's something to be excited about, because, you know, all we can do is take away from the tequila market and the vodka market. And flavored vodka.
Came here tonight
Fuck
to
off.
talk about is what the alchemist Alan Bishop is doing, and look at here, what's around me tonight. I only have like 13 of them.
It's a pretty good fucking library.
Yeah, 13 of the many different you know, compliments that you do.
Better you
And,
gotta.
you know,
Just trying to see.
What?
I was seeing what you had back there. I got you.
oh,
Okay.
So, Alan, maybe
What?
one day, 50, 60
Look,
years from now,
this is my most prized, and what's very
got
little left. That's the original.
I just finished one of
Yeah.
those off that Brian Cushing brought me. I didn't even have any. He had to buy it from a place in Louisville and bring it to me. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
It's always
50, 60 years from now, Alan, somebody will open up a distillery somewhere outside of French Lick, and they'll be, you know, talking to some podcast group and talking about how, oh man, back in the day, you know, they had this guy, his name was Alan, and so they're gonna have a tribute bottle with your face on it. It's going to be very reminiscent of this, and and because that said person won't know how to distill it, it'll be MGP juice, and you will finally.
You've created my fucking nightmare.
You're gonna be close to be looking like.
You
Whatever.
will finally have an MGP Alan Bishop bottle.
That's fucking phenomenal, man. That's phenomenal. I hope it's something fucked up too. I hope by that point it's like it is now, where everybody's like, "Oh, have you had the MGP light whiskey? It's so good." Motherfucker. The only reason you're drinking that shit is because nobody could get any fucking bourbon from MGP. Fuck off.
And it's gonna have the fucking Batman t-shirt on and shit. Fucking
I hope I live long enough to see that day.
Well, I do too, and I hope whatever little piece of my quintessence still exists in this world, I'm gonna haunt the fuck out of that person. Like I'm telling you right now, like if it's a dude, I'm gonna be on there. And listen, I don't suppose that a ghost has a sexual orientation, but if they're on a podcast, I'm just gonna be flipping them in the nutsack. Just
I want to team up with you on that one. We'll just.
God damn it, Moeller, stop! Stop!
Why? Why is it always the team
right there? Yeah.
I love you, brother, but I do not want to sword fight you. I do not want to sword fight you. Okay.
No
crossing streams. not to pile on CT, but that bottle will actually just be called the Bishop, and it'll be MGP 95.5 finished in prune juice barrels.
Yeah.
I hope it's like a 30-year-old bottling of something of mine. Just tastes like fucking pencil lead is what I hope. And I hope that it's got a big enough name at that point that they just pay stupid prices for it.
Oh,
I mean,
and my tribute bottle is going to take the piece of the jeans, that I get on my next barrel pick bottle.
I'm going to be 95 years old.
To that.
And oh my God, pencil lead. Fucking A. Look, baby.
Yep.
The Bishop.
I'm going up and chopping up my jeans for that next barrel pick, man.
If you guys
1x1 squares.
If you guys haven't kept up with it, I just recently had one of these moments, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to pull a dick move. It's coming. So, Mic Drop released the 60% corn, 17 wheat, 13 oats, and 10% malt. Sounds an awful lot like a mash bill, right? That they bought from an undisclosed distillery in Kentucky that aged in a cellar, and there was a whole thing there. And the retail price was like $400 and something, but most places you look, it's like $1,400. Well, I tried to reach out to them forever ago because that was the first legal bourbon my dad and I ever distilled at Copper and Kings, and they blocked me for whatever reason. I don't know why. Maybe they were friends with somebody I worked with at Copper and Kings. It doesn't matter. So me and Dad, we got a sample of that through a very good friend. We did a tasting of it on YouTube. It's just Lee Sinclair that's 7 years old, right? So now I've got some barrels of Lee that I set aside that are coming up on 7 years old. Should I do it? Should I just be that fucking guy and be like $400 a bottle, motherfuckers?
Yeah,
that's what it is, right? Just to say that you did it one time, right? And I'll just tell people up front, like, don't buy it. It's stupid. Don't buy it. It's fucking retarded. Just stupid.
Since it's gonna be 7 years old, do you call it Lee Sinclair's senior?
Potentially.
But all I gotta say is, why the hell? It's just like the people who pay that aren't your people.
No. Yes.
So if they're not your people, let them pay it, and then produce something for your people that is better.
Maybe I'll just do like a black label that's just red text that says, I never wanted to do this in the first place.
So you're almost the age of my son. A couple years from my son. You're not from our generation. And what does our generation want? Our generation always has wanted, and I will tell you this from third grade on. I want what I can't fucking have. And I will pay shitloads of money for what I can't have. I wanted the wacky pack in third grade. I wanted the baseball card.
Good stuff.
In when I was 12 years old. I've always wanted what I don't want. And marketing people understand that about this generation. That's why it all exists. So why should you not participate in my generation's weakness in producing?
Because of person's soul, that's why.
right.
Because it's soul, that's money has nothing to do with your soul.
No, it does. He doesn't want to buy into that shit.
I gotta tell you, I was so tempted.
Time, the iconoclast thing, when you were doing that with the iconoclast, it's like people were like, my age was just like, really? That's how much it costs?
Yeah, some people went hard on that deal. God damn, they did.
But
there were people coming in being like, we saw online that it's like $50 a shot. And like, if you want to pay that, then by all means.
So once again, want what we can't have.
Yeah.
And if it's $50 a shot, give it to me.
Right.
I was so worried. I thought for sure when Jeff said, you know what people in my generation want? And I was going to go, oh no, don't go back to the double team.
Yeah. Def Leppard pants. That's what they want.
Hey, CT, you heard that. What concert are you taking me to?
Whoa.
Me and my wife. What concert are we all going to?
Was you going to say, did you just ask him out on a date?
Are you staying in the same room?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I'm just saying.
Listen, I have tickets.
Alan, that's good instincts.
Motley Crue and Def Leppard, and Jeff is and Roxy are going. Yes.
He's wearing those pants. Isn't
No,
he?
I'm not. I'm not.
Yes, you are. You know
With
you
his
are.
bandana belt.
They will be cut up into squares to go on
You know,
slick barrel thing.
I will say this, and I hate to say this, and I love you, Jeff, but I have to say it. I mean, I love the Spider-Man shirt, but you do got a little bit of a Silent Bob thing going on there tonight.
I'm going for it. 100%. My shirt is like 4 times too small.
It's a medium.
Like you look like you're the guy that worked at like the local record store in like 2005, 2006, and
I'm
like you
shaving my beard off now.
you walk in, and the guy's like, "Have you heard the new White Stripes record? It's really fucking good."
Bought a couple albums from him. I swear to God, I did. Without the hat.
Alan,
Hey, Radiohead has a new album coming out?
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
I don't care. See, he
Alan,
just
I think that
But at the same time,
Holy shit.
I
Dude, I
have
don't care.
Apple. I have Apple. I can listen to whatever.
Oh, Jeff, that was fucking great, buddy. God damn, that was great. I'm not drinking on podcasts anymore. I haven't drank a drop tonight, and I've had so much fucking fun doing this. This is fucking phenomenal.
You were
Fucking
drinking
A,
coffee.
you've been on
saw
fire
it.
all night, brother.
All right, everybody. So I think we need to wrap this.
it's 11:30.
Yeah, we went full Joe Rogan on this bullshit for sure.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to have to be like a 6-part mini series when it comes on, when it gets posted online.
Yeah.
Good. I mean, for God's
This is
sake,
like
my
4
wife just
podcasts
texted
in
me.
one.
She's on her way home from a birth. She started and the baby wasn't born, and now it's born and she's on her way home.
She's on her way with new pants.
Before you cut out, I do want to do one more thing. I just want to do one more plug for the Spring Mill.
Yeah.
If you want to get tickets for that, you can call Kalita Pruitt at 812-849-3534, and you can still get your tickets and call her directly. And it's going to be a great event, and that's Saturday, June 10th.
Yep.
2 days.
It's going to be a good time for everybody. And if you come by, come through the distillery, and I'll talk to you about Indiana distilling history. So,
Absolutely.
Actually, at this point, CT, it's pretty much one day.
Yep. Yeah, you're right, Carl. It is 1 day and about 22 minutes.
Oh man,
Yeah.
you got to be up early and out the door. But yeah, all I got to say is if you get a chance to go there, and Alan, you're going to be there, correct? You guys, French Lick is going to be there. The value is immense. I mean, you share your distilling knowledge, and I've been come down to Indiana, and what you do there and what you do for the community and the distilling community is 100% not like anybody else, right?
got to be different. Different. So
Absolutely.
cool. And Brian Cushing will be with me in the distillery, by the way, for those who are fans of the Victorian bar room. So, always a great time to hang out with Brian, and he's a wealth of information as well. And last little plug there. So we just finished up filming a movie that we've been working on, a documentary since before COVID. I'd come across some information some years ago about 2 absinthe distillers that were in Switzerland County, Indiana in the 1830s. And so Brian and I have worked on this project with Locust Grove, Kentucky Artisan Distillery, and Spirits of French Lick. We actually went to Musée de Vinoge. We captured yeast from Musée de Vinoge. We got botanicals from Musée de Vinoge, and we reproduced what a Switzerland County absinthe would have been in the 1830s, and we filmed the entire process. And this past week, we actually went to a piece of property. Ironically, another descendant of a distiller knew where it was, but we actually went to the Griffith Dickinson property where the absinthe distiller, one of the two absinthe distilleries, was in Switzerland County, Indiana, and I just captured yeast from there in order to use that to reproduce a new absinthe in the future. So
that's cool.
So be on the lookout for that.
And one other thing, cost for this is $35 per person if you're staying in the park's campground, $45 if you're not staying in the park's campground. And this is, I believe there's like 15 different distillers going to be there.
I don't remember. I think 8 or so, but yeah.
Okay.
Either way, a good time.
Yeah.
Last but not least.
Yeah.
Last but not least.
Yep.
Alan, if you receive a package in the next coming week from the Buckle and it has Jeff's name attached to it, please don't refuse it. Send it back.
We'll do. Well noted. Well noted.
Do not accept the package.
You know, guys, for sure that he's on this fucking pants thing. Like, it's going on a fucking bottle somewhere. So
it's coming.
It's gonna be a thing. He's gonna think that you guys forgotten about this conversation. You give him a couple weeks, he's gonna be like, guys, the next time we do a single barrel, pants are going on the bottle.
Wait a second. I gotta be with him tomorrow. If you wear them damn pants down here tomorrow, there's gonna be
shorts.
Oh yeah, they're going down for a new riff pick tomorrow.
It's either that or you're never going to see him again because he's going to get off here and go outside and burn them. Fucking assholes! They made the whole show about my pants.
Carl used to be all over it. It was fine, but I just got quadruple teamed. So fuck that.
Stop talking.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop. All right, guys, I'm gonna get off here and go to bed.
Everybody,
thank you, Alan.
Take us out.
We appreciate you, brother. We love you, man.
Yeah, love you guys too.
Keep doing what you're doing, and look forward to seeing you the next time, brother.
CT,
Absolutely,
take us
guys.
out.
Cheers.
Evo.
You gotta do the whole thing. Where we're at?
Seriously, at this point in the night.
Okay.
What?
You do it.
Okay, do it.
Go ahead.
Don't forget, Scotchy Bourbon Boys, all your stuff, Glencairns.
T-shirts, hats. Follow us on Twitter. So any social media platform whatsoever.
French Lick Distillery. Get your Glencairns, get your bourbon, get your wine.
We're soon to be sponsored by Buckle, so keep an eye out for that as well.
Don't forget to go to the Scotchy Boys Patreon. It's actually titled "Buy Jeff New Pants."
Yeah,
and that's gonna be the new product for the Bourbon Festival. We're gonna have Scotchy Bourbon Boys Def Leppard pants in assorted overly obese adult sizes.
They're just totally overpriced prices too.
You can buy him a shirt.
Can we get some of those mirrors? The mirrors with Jeff's face on it that you win at the fair.
Yes, buy him a shirt that also says "Not Silent Bob."
Yeah. Absolutely.
So no one gets confused. Buy him another shirt that says, "I don't work at a record store," because they no longer fucking exist.
But
they're coming back. My kids are buying.
I was there for a while.
Yeah, that's
then
true.
They got fired.
Oh shit! All right.
Actually, he just needs a shirt that says "Help me with my words."
Thanks everybody for watching on Facebook and sticking in there with us. The whole 3 people, I think one of them is me.
One's left.
That's fucking great.
Actually, Jeff, I think I will buy you a shirt that says I am going to buy you a shirt that says "I want double teamed." And you're going to wear that down at Kentucky Bourbon Festival for a whole day.
Wearing that.
You get him an Oreo shirt.
You will.
Only
says,
if Alan wears it at Bourbon on the Banks.
Listen, you know
how
how
put that fucking shirt on you while you're drunk.
I'm all about irony. I'll wear the fucking shirt, but I'm just telling you, if you guys really want to get him what he wants, you get him a picture a shirt with a picture of a double stuffed Oreo that says double stuff. That's my thing.
Fucking A. You got it, brother.
All right. Love you guys.
All right.
Love you all, brother.
Everybody, good night.
Good night.
Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and also all
social media platform.
All
Yep.
Yep.
Hey, remember to live your life dangerously, but
Good bourbon
always drink responsibly.
Equals good friends.
Good times and good laughs.
The West Boston,
Little Steve.
Well,
not good pants.
Indiana, Spirits of French Lick.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die.
Worked out great for me because I didn't have to play a character. I didn't have to dress up. I didn't have to do Duthy Woads. There wasn't any fucking mud fossil. So Jeff, keep playing the character, please.
Fuck you, Alan.
There it is. That's the spirit.
That's the spirit
The
we were
spirit
looking
of
for
French
all
Lick.
night.
Yes. All right, guys, I'm out.
All right.
All right, Alan.
Thanks,
Later,
brother.
brother.
Yep.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Yep.
Good
Good
night.
night.
Hey, Scotchy Bourbon Boys fans, this is Alan Bishop, Indiana's alchemist of the Black Forest. So I'm tuning in here today to tell you all about the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute channel on YouTube. If you're at all interested in the art of distilling, whether it be home distilling or professional distilling, and the intense geekery that goes into that process, then check out the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube. I promise you're going to learn something you didn't know before about the art.